and Jesus paid the price. Thank you, guys.
Amen. In the realm of the spirit, blood has a voice, and blood is always speaking. In the world today, there are two innocent men whose blood have been speaking for years. The first is the blood of the first man who was slain, Abel. Abel was slain, innocent guy, got murdered by his rebel brother. But Abel, as good as he was, his voice wasn't speaking peace. He was calling for Cain's head. So they said Abel's voice was one of vengeance. The second blood of the innocent man that was shed was Christ. And his blood has been speaking for you long before you got here. Just in case you don't hear the voice, I want to tell you what the blood said. The blood said you belong. The blood said you're free. The blood said you're loved. It's paid in full. There is no death. There is no sickness. So if you look at the East and the West, there are two ways they understand sin. And I think it's important we have that background before we get started on anything today. In the West and in the time of Jesus, if you look at Jesus particularly, Jesus did not see sin as a crime to be punished. He didn't see sin as a crime to be punished. So if you look at Matthew 11, let's look at that scripture. Matthew 2 verse 17. So what is sin? Is sin a crime or is sin a disease? What is sin? Is sin a crime or is sin a disease? See what Matthew 2 verse 17 said to us. And when Jesus heard it, he said to them, those who are well have no need of his physician, but those who are sick, I came not to call the righteous but sinners. See what Jesus equated? He equated sin with sickness. Do you know, my little boy he woke up one day with a swollen eye or red eye. He doesn't actually fall sick. They try, they don't really fall sick. But he woke up with a swollen eye or red eye that particular day. And I saw him, he was itching, right? And he was trying to, and he was too young, he can't articulate himself. I don't know what brought that about. And when I looked at him, he would itch. I said, no, don't touch it, don't touch it. We're trying to get him not to be rubbing it because the more he was rubbing it, it was getting really ugly. So I tried to stop him. He couldn't. And you know what? If I could, I would enter into that eye, right? If I could, I would enter into that eye and remove that, I don't know, whatever it is, and deal with it. That is the love of a father. I didn't see him as the disease. I saw what the disease was doing to him, and I needed to get him out. You are not punished for sin. You are punished by sin. Sin is its own punishment. So when you hear judgment, I don't know what you guys have believed about judgment, but honestly, anytime God used the word judgment with respect to human, it's about judging you to redeem you. It's not about judging you to throw you away. So, when I grew up, we had the chickens, right? I told you before. There was this particular time, one of them, in my grandmother's house, I don't know how something tied the leg, like rope or thread, and it became ugly and swollen. And it couldn't work, the hand couldn't work. So we all tried. We stayed the cool. And we got the chicken. And we took out the stuff. If there's a picture of judgment, I just gave you the picture of judgment. We just judged that chicken. But what was the judgment? The judgment was dealing with it to take away sin so he can see what it really is. God dealt with sin in humanity by the one blow of the cross. He took out sin. So you're not punished. God is not punishing you for your sin. God is punishing sin to free you. His vengeance and his wrath comes upon sin. So when you know judgment, run to God and hold his judgment. I'd rather be judged by God because the judgment of God pulls from your life anything that is not of God's kind. So we are being judged by the day. You don't understand that you're being judged. So the Holy Spirit comes to remind you who you are in God. So there's a judgment that is going on, but the judgment is ultimate redemption. God is a lover, not a killer. Jesus did not pray to Father and say, Father, we forgive you for what you are doing to me on the cross. Was it what he said? But that's what you hear. God was killing Jesus on the day he died. And God must have stood there and said, yes, their sins are heavy. Heap a few more. Terrible humanity. See what I'm doing to my son because of you. Rejoice, play well because my son is dying for your sake. Right? You carry all those things. But guess what? Paul gave us the picture. God was not doing the killing. God was in Christ, co-suffering for our death. God was doing the dying for our redemption. He was the one that was the sacrificial lamb. He wasn't the one that was taking the lamb. When Jesus prayed, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. The forgiveness was not for God. The forgiveness was humanity. We carried the stones, we pierced his side. How did we arrive at the gospel that made God the killer and we the participant or the observer? You were the participant. God was just a spectator, but not a participator in your death. My Father is a lover, not a killer. God is for you, not against you. All that God is, he is so that you will be whole the way he created you. He dealt with sin to free you. So this fear-based gospel that we embrace in Nigeria is not taking you anywhere. Please, can I get a board? Just quickly before a board and a marker. So in every religion, right, I'll do one quick intro. In every religion, there is two things you must settle for in your own walk with God. And it's important we keep reminding ourselves. Two things you must settle for. One of them is, where is God? And the second one is, who found who? So in literally every religion of the world, for those of you that know Islam, what's the height of your spiritual experience? If you're coming from a Muslim experience, what is the height of your spiritual experience? Yeah, any answer? Fumi, you want to help? Well, no, I said the height of the experience. Anybody, what's the height of your experience? Going to Mecca. Guys, going to Mecca. So, in fact, you won't be called Alaji if you don't make that trip. The Alajis and the Alajas, they know that we don't, when we sit in the same, it's not parish now, when you sit in the same mosque, you have to respect that two of us are on the same level. You know, so if you've gone to Mecca, in fact, their whole experience is waiting to go to Mecca. It's called the spiritual land. And they're going for, it's actually the crowning of your spiritual efforts. So what you are seeing, this is the picture you keep in mind. This is God. This is God. Now, I'm saying Islam. Man has to find God in a place called Mecca. So the search begins with you. You have to search and go and find God. So let's talk about Buddhism. If you've studied or flirted with it for a bit, how does it start? Where does it end? So at the end of the day, in the Buddhist search, you're on a spiritual journey to find enlightenment, right? I find enlightenment. And there are two things in that. The Buddhists somehow, although not all Buddhism, but they're particular as the predominant aspect of Buddhism, they see the ultimate expression of divinity as knowledge and evolving into something more, right? But it's as you search more, you know more. So ultimately, what begins is that you search for revelation, you go to a monk, you go to a monastery, is it? Or what's that name? It's a monastery. You have to go to a monastery to really study that. And then you will now become a Buddhist monk, right? You know. So it starts with, the arrow goes up. If I put Buddhism here, it goes up. You begin your pursuit to find God. Any other one, Hindu. Let's go Hindu on this. In Hindu as well, you have to basically search. So many times, they go to Himalayas, they go to mountains. Their experience of God has to, the less crowded you are, the more you are closer to God. So the journey again is man's attempt to find God. Now, if there are 2,000 religions, it's actually 2,000 ways to find God, right? Now, but when you enter Christianity, there are two understandings of Christianity. There is the Christianity that actually is closer to religion. But I want to introduce you to the Christianity that you and I should begin to embrace and practice. So in the Christianity that is closer to religion, this Christianity begins with man's search for God. And so in this particular place, you start your journey to find God. So it's actually defined by many kind of events. You are on a search for God, right? And you're not very different from the Islam guy. It's just that you call the name of Jesus. You're actually not very different from the Buddhists, but you don't go to the monastery. But their experience of going to church is so that they will become close to God. So for them, God is here when they go home and they meet him when they show up. This is a cafe, guys. It's a cafe. You don't leave him behind. He showed up with you because he's in you. Now, but guess what happened? In Christianity, if your Christianity is, you start side, that's not Christianity too. Christianity did not begin with man finding God. Christianity started with God coming for man. So in Christianity, the arrow goes like this. In every religion, it points forward. In Christianity, he points down. John said the word became flesh, not the heaven, like that too. He was the one that did the coming. So you don't find him, he reveals himself. The search is not in you. He said, before you were willing to find me, I was eager to be revealed. So when he spoke about the lost coin, the lost sheep, he was giving us a picture of who? The lost coin did not look for the owner. Lost coin did not look for owner. The lost sheep did not look for the owner. The shepherd did the looking for. The owner of the coin did the looking for. Your father, your maker, your lover did the search and found you. You are found. So we preach not a gospel of the lost trying to be found, but the found coming to their realization. We are no longer lost, we are found in him. So you're not doing the whole thing. So we teach Christianity as in the Christian religion, you give your life to Christ. But in the gospel of Christ, you receive a life that is his. So he said that while you were yet sinner, he died. He said the life, you were dead in your sin. So you were a dead man, just dead man moving around. So he took your nature and gave you his nature. We call it the great exchange. So he did not give him your life. He gave you his. And that life you receive is superior. You are powered by a life. So you are called a life-giving spirit. You are not called you're not a human being trying to have a spiritual experience. You are not a spiritual being, just happen to be living a human life. But your humanity cannot take away your divinity. Your divinity is your true expression now. So what is your Christian experience? Is it that you need to? So let me give you my own background. So on campus, right, when I was 14, I stumbled into this kingdom movement. Christians, very interesting movement. So we were speaking, it was hugely charismatic. That was Raina Davis. I brought Raina here, so some of us know Raina. I grew up in Port Harcourt, right? So Raina had gotten started on this movement where it was just about passion. We wanted to know God. So I went there, and that was where I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. Now, I was raised a church boy. I have a very eclectic church experience. My dad was a Catholic. Whenever we were around, we did a 6 o'clock mass. But he was not always around. So my mom was the Pentecostal type that looks for power. So if it is Zoe today, move to the next mountain of wherever you. So she likes power. In fact, wherever there is manifestation, hey, we go. So that's one. We did quite a bit of shopping around. Now, my grandmother was raised an Anglican, right? So we did a couple of hymns. In fact, she told us her father brought the church to their village. All our parents, they were the ones that started the lights. But whatever the case, her father brought the gospel to their village. So she was an Anglican. So I had this beautiful experience of seeing God through, I didn't think the Catholics were lost. It didn't strike me the way a lot of Pentecostals would think of them. Because my family members were practicing Catholics. So I would see that they were just as everyone else. I didn't think the Anglicans didn't have the Spirit of God. I just thought they were more reserved, right? Maybe the expression of Holy Spirit was introverted. I don't know. But guess what? So at that point in time, we were short on knowledge but big on manifestation. What we were pursuing was the supernatural life. So we liked all this night of bliss, miracle. Oh, Lord. There was a particular time I was even going somewhere with my friend. We saw a man on wheelchair. We told ourselves, brother, let's get this man moving. We spent about 5 minutes negotiating how it's going to be. Courage failed us. But my point is, that was all we knew. We were powered by the raw energy. Do it. Lay your hands, right? Now, when I got into university, I saw a different experience. So that supernatural side, speaking in tongues, was even where they told me that, Ferdy, you have a mind of a teacher. I said, are you serious? How does it work? They said, no, you're always looking for the connecting dots. I said, yeah, okay, fine, I like it. Right? So when I got into university, but between that time and university, I saw not a few things in church that I didn't like. So I joined fellowship, and it was just a lot of drama. It was not a lot of effort. We were looking for God all the time. So there's a part called Botanical Garden. We will go and camp there for descend, Lord. Lord, with charity you show up. You understand? So there was a lot of, Lord, where are you? And the louder you scream, the more powerful you are. So, the fasting was, Lord, reveal yourself, find God. It was a lot of work. The difference between us and where we're coming now was, in this particular experience, I just saw a lot of things. People they loved God. They all loved God. But you know what was missing? They didn't know that they were loved. They didn't know. So when your own realization is, I need to love God more, you miss out the fact that you are the object of his affection. And when you come, what transforms you is not how well you love, is knowing you're loved. In fact, the love you have for him is a reflection of the one you receive from him. So that it is his love that you receive that propels you to love. So the love is not generated by energy. You can't even love your girlfriend when you fight. So how will you not love God you can't see? Let's explain it. The one that transforms you is his love you received. He does the supplying. So Paul said, no greater love as any man than lay down his life. Or John said, and Paul was saying, what can separate us from the love of God in Romans 8? Nothing can separate us from the love. Nothing can separate us from the love. That he didn't say the love of God, the love for God constrain us. He said the love of God constrain. Your answer to addiction is knowing you're loved. That love holds you back from doing anything that deprives you the love that you're enjoying. And one thing you must understand is that the love of God comes into you to make you hunger for him. So God is the love in you, calling him to himself. You cannot do that by yourself. So I stayed in Christianity. I was tired of trying. It just seemed a lot of work. And after that, Paul will come back. He said, brother, well, after that, you cast a few here and there. Lost again. I thought we dealt with it last week. The demons were taking off. These things die hard. So after a while, I drifted, right? I came into, then I found another type of Christianity. In this particular Christianity, we were very big on doctrine. So it was called Reformed Movement. Those guys know Bible. And I was coming from Christian experience where the Bible was not necessarily, the pastor, it wasn't theology or doctrine. They would just take a word. The Lord is coming on you today. My brother, I see him coming on you. Coming over there. So that will stay there. So, and all of us, oh yeah, come Lord. Right? So, we were all excited about the coming. And the pastor said, oh, brother, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Fire! So, and honestly, we knew a lot about God. We just didn't know him. So the thing was that we knew God's power, but we didn't have the underpinning revelation of what powers the power. So we're not able to sustain it. Today you're up, tomorrow you're down. So when I got into this conversation, I discovered something called Calvinism. So you might know them, but the Calvinists became my friends. So because the Calvinists would say, John 3:16, God so loved. Why does God love? God loves. The love of God is powerful. Ephesians 1:4, you are loved. So they will connect all the, so they will link like 7 scriptures. And I'm like, this is beautiful. So in 6 months of being there, I knew Bible. I knew more than in my 30 years, in my 20-something years of doing Pentecostal. So I started feeling like something was missing in Pentecostal that these people had. And sooner than later, I discovered something was missing in them that Pentecostals had. So I realized that we settled for the part to define the whole. And these people could not enjoy the fullness that is God because they're holding on to their own lens. Brother, I see the moon. The other one's like, it's the sun, brother. So be careful because it's the moon. How dare you see the moon when we see the sun? So, well, I won't even lie to you guys. I was a spiritual militant. I was also on a prowl on Instagram, Twitter, looking for who didn't have an accurate revelation of the Lord. Brother, that's not gospel. Come out. You become an army for the Lord. Shoot him, who will shoot you. So I have friends say, no, please, I'm not arguing Bible. Those ones, the first quit. When I said, brother, I just posted something. May we talk about it? But no. Please. Even class WhatsApp group, I entered there. And honestly, but it was a life of toil. No, these were the guys that burned people at the stakes. Because they knew the one that is, they had knowledge of the one that is love, but they didn't know his love. And knowledge cannot transform you, love transforms. So they had a divergent view. So if you look at it, some people started from Pentecostal, entered Calvinist. So started from Calvinist, went Pentecostal. But the beauty of the gospel is that it's both. You need the doctrine and you need the experience. You need the manifestation and you need the theology. So at the end of the day, you need both to build. And in 21st century life, we can't have either. We need both. So when I got to this particular place, the challenge for me was I was growing head knowledge, but I wasn't growing deep love. So I was just about winning an argument. And it made good to win the argument. But at the end of the day, you know that you're not going anywhere with this thing. But one thing that started to struggle was, I realized that there were many things in the Calvinist concept that I didn't quite fully understand or I didn't accept. First of all, they didn't believe in manifestation of the Holy Spirit. I remember my journey where I'm coming from. We were manifestors, looking for bodies to raise. And then they didn't believe. They said, no, that one of them told me there's something called cessation, that the last gift died with the apostle. I said, God forbid! That would be such a terrible life. That you meant to honor it. Like Paul said, convert the gifts. We are all in the image of God. Christ is the... And they said, no. The Pentecostal residue. So before long, the infighting started. We can start fighting. Then said, and then there was one that I couldn't swallow very easily. Double predestination. So in this particular one, they tell you that God predestined some people to salvation and some people were predestined to death. And I said, then why will I be responsible for going to hell? If it was his choice that I should go there, then why should I bother preaching to anyone? He has predestined them, go home. So, it was just a pure logical, I couldn't quite, do you know the arguments in fact, even then, I had one girlfriend that I carried into the bush. She got lost in it. She was, I've seen the lights. And I'm like, baby, you're going blind. You're going blind, right? So at the end of the day, I kind of left the whole thing. After a while, I was like, why this God work so hard? But there is a third pillar that transformed it for me. The third one now was that after supernatural, that supernatural, the problem was that we didn't know we were supernatural. We were living to experience it. And then we now come back and go home. No, we didn't know that we were naturally supernatural. So we couldn't unlock a consciousness that kept us in that level of power. You understand? But we know power. We're looking for demons to deal with. All around town. So, but in this particular place, they were short on all those power side, but they were strong on doctrine. So they knew justification, they knew this, they knew that. But some things just didn't tie up. Now, there's a third place that I came into about 7 years ago. And that was the third place for me was just realizing what I just showed you guys. It's the discovery that the gospel is not about what you need to do to get God to love and accept you. But the gospel is a discovery that you're already in him. You're already loved and accepted. So that everyone today is just here to discover that they are sons. If you ask me, every unbeliever is a son in disguise. Every sinner is a son in ignorance. But fundamentally, you are a son. So we're going to talk about sonship today. And why I think sonship is central. So if your journey is not bringing you to sonship, you're wasting time. The revival that we're waiting for is a revival of awakened sons. Romans 8:19 says the earnest expectations of creation is waiting the manifestation of the sons of God. Right? So this is what you must understand. God is calling us to manifest sonship. Right? And you must keep that in mind. So we're going to talk a bit about that. But in case you were raised a Pentecostal, there are beauty in those things. You can't throw away the baby and the bathwater. So there was the Azusa movement that happened in the 18th century or early 19th century. Early 19th century. All those God's general. Those ones were powerful people. They did a lot of miracles, but the reality was a lot of them had very flawed lives. Even while God was using them mightily, they would go and marry somebody's husband. This one will do this one, everything, scandal. But God will show up. No, you realize that, you ask, why does God love to use broken people? Quite frankly, there are no other vessels. We all are. Just different types. So, but because a lot of them were not people that had, even Maria Woodward-Etta, there was one time somebody was asking about double predestination. She said, why are you looking at the gutter when you should be looking at the hills? She was like, why are you talking about things that is not necessary? You are in your father, stay there. Right? Forget the argument and stay there. So this other move, which is the theological move, happened with the Reformation, the Enlightenment age. That was Martin Luther. Martin Luther, John Calvin, they broke away from the Catholic Church because they felt the Catholic Church had many traditions. But not sooner than later, they were caught up in yet another tradition. What would make us different is the Spirit of God. So guys, let me tie it back to where we started and what we'll be talking about. Imposter syndrome. So this is what if you were not here last week, we did a study on Moses. An interesting character study on Moses. Moses was a guy who was born a crime. Have you read that book, Born a Crime? Yeah. Born a Crime, Trevor. But he was born a crime. Because at this point in time, it was criminal, offensive, wrong to have a male child born to the Jews. So his parents managed to have sort of covered him for 3 months and then passed him just in time for Pharaoh's daughter to be bathing, right? She was just baiting around the corner and the body floated. And Miriam was around just to give an advice on who should train him. But the story plot was so perfect. Sooner than later, Moses' mother was paid to raise Moses. You were paid to raise your child. Such providence. But Apparently, Moses was raised, after Moses came of age, he went to the palace and became a prince. So Moses was actually raised as a prince. And that was why he had more education than most people in the Jewish camp. He was the most educated man. Now, something happened. He made a big mistake, a terrible blunder. So, guys, it's in a sense where most of us are. One day he was passing around town, saw two people fighting. Hebrews 11 had given us a clue that Moses made up his mind not to be an Egyptian, that he wanted to identify himself as a Jew. But all his friends were Egyptians. They had the best cars. They flew private jets around town. You don't just boycott your class. To excommunicate yourself from the community and comfort was a taboo, right? He was raised next door with the future president of Egypt. So Moses actually made up his mind, but he didn't know he had resolved until he saw two people fighting. Guess what happened? If you know the story, he killed the Egyptian, joined forces with the Jew to kill the Egyptian, and news got around town that Moses had murdered somebody. Moses fled. So Moses went from being a prince to becoming a fugitive. He went to seek asylum far away in a city called Midian. And when he went, he landed right in the priest's house. The priest of Midian, Jethro, took him in. But we meet Moses again in the burning bush. This was 40 years after he had kind of like drifted. So we meet him in the burning bush, right? And at this point in the burning bush, what we realize is that Moses had lost every sense of confidence. When we meet him at the burning bush, he was a stammerer. But when Paul was writing about him in Acts, Moses was called an orator. So you know what? What are the kind of journeys you take on in life that strips you of your self-esteem? There are many journeys in this Nigeria. In fact, our parents alone is a journey from Egypt to Midian. Our parents, African parents, they internalize it, they are backhand compliments. So they are saying, you are smart, but the stupidity. So just bless him that they say you are smart, let it just end there. They say, but, they're not messed up. So at the end of the day, we discovered Moses at the burning bush. No confidence, no identity, no self-esteem. Moses had all the ideas of why he shouldn't be called. Moses told God, I'm not the best guy for the job. No one is going to believe me. He felt he had lost legitimacy. He could not even identify himself with the way God sees him. And I know that is actually what we tied out a bit, that if you're not careful, you begin to identify yourself as your traumas, your experiences. But God doesn't see you as that. God comes alongside, and God begins to see you as the person he created you to be, because he had the source code. God knew you from your birth that this person was destined for greatness. So don't settle for your broken experiences, no matter how intimate you are with them. Some people become bonded with their broken experiences and they use it as a clutch. It becomes an identity. You understand? You now form clique of broken hearts. And in that WhatsApp group of broken hearts, they're analyzing men and giving them names. It's not a healing journey for you. You're not meant to become bonded with a place that is broken. You're meant to find wholeness in who you are now in Christ. So that's where we left off. But guess what? What was happening to Moses was not exclusive to Moses. I dare say that there was, what I call it is a national imposter syndrome or a national identity crisis was happening to the Egyptians. So we're going to pull it out from two case studies today. We're going to look Joshua 1. We're going to read from Joshua 1, and we're going to go down to Numbers 13. But the point again is Moses had an identity crisis. And it was a generational crisis on one level. It was a generational crisis. It was an ethnic crisis. It was a tribal crisis. It was a national crisis. Do you know in Nigeria here we have national traumas? No, we do. We have national traumas. Civil war alone is something we don't want to talk about, so we've not healed from it. So a lot of people today are living in the pain of the loss, but never really resolved. Let me ask you, one thing you can always know national traumas or national identity crisis is that the people are not able to produce. Before long, they become impotent even to themselves. It becomes a wasteland of potentials. We've been giant of Africa since I was born. And now I am getting young. I have not seen the giant show up. You were called potential. So, land of promise. Brother, this promise is not a born. When is the reality going to show up? But guess what? I list a few things to show you how deep our brokenness has eaten into the culture. When I was growing up, there was a company called NAFCON. Any of you know NAFCON? Did your dad work there? Ask him what happened to it. Anyway, NAFCON. There was a company called Nitel. Is it around? Okay, there was a company called, there was NAFCON, there was Nitel, there was NEPA. NEPA, we don't know, they've privatized some, they've not privatized all. So NEPA has identity crisis. But what I can say is we watched an entire industrial ecosystem collapse. And I can tell you from this story we're about to read why that happened. So we can't run a thing in this country as a country. You do better as an individual than we do as a country. You understand? Put Nigerians there, they can't run anything, right? So my point is, what is broken in the national psyche to remove us from the place that we produce? We are in a generation of identity crisis, and there is a crisis of human potential. So Joshua 1, let's look at Joshua chapter 1. Mark, are you there? Joshua 1. Okay. After the death of Moses, Marco, I think give us maybe amplified on NLT. After the death of Moses, the servant of God, God spoke to Joshua, Moses' assistant. Next. Okay, after the death of Moses, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant. He said, go next. Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore, the time has come for you to lead this people, the Israelites, across the Jordan River into the land I am giving to you. I promise you what I promised Moses. Wherever you set your foot, you will be on land I have given to you. From the Negev wilderness in the south to the Lebanon mountains in the north, from the Euphrates River in the east, the Mediterranean Sea in the west, including all the land of the Hittites, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you or abandon you. Be strong and courageous. Please note this statement. Be strong and courageous, for you are the one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors I would give them. Be strong and very courageous. Now, let's not boil this down. If you read the entire chapter, you find almost 7 to 8 times where God was using the same thing. Was he not hearing, be strong and courageous? Why was God repeating it to him? Because when you're born into slavery, courage becomes a capital. It's not something you're natural with. You have to learn it. So God needs to remind him, clearly there was fear in the heart of this man that God was seeing. There was the impostor in them that God was seeing. So it wasn't just Moses that dealt with it. They were all dealing with it. Guess what? Their father and their father before them were all born in slavery. And it was 400 years of slavery in Egypt. And those 400 years, Pharaoh had laws that were more capitalist and more structured to kill you. The laws was that male children can be killed. You were meant to make bricks without straw. So Pharaoh was an innovator in punishment. He actually proposed all kinds of policy to put them in bondage. Some of you, if you're born in the same environment where you were really, really dealt with, you were just punished and punished, stepmom type of syndrome, unloving that type of syndrome, all of those pain in your inner child are things that can traumatize you for the rest of your life. I saw a quote where someone says, if we fail to deal with the brokenness in our childhood, our relationships will confront them. And why you've been through 3 relationships and no one has tied up is because the brokenness is speaking louder than who you are. And somehow you're unable to tell the difference between the brokenness and who you are. So let's look at Numbers 13. Now, again, you can complete this. Do not be afraid, do not be afraid. But interestingly, Numbers 13, I want to look at the 12 spies. Numbers 13. So I'll give you background. We'll start from 25, but I'll give you the background. So now, God had already instructed them that, please, you go and take the land. He had told Joshua about it. But what we found here was that Joshua had a plan. The plan was take about, I think this mic is gone next. Some of them were appointed. Hello. Some of them were appointed. Thank you. These things will follow us to 2021. Trust me. If honestly, you know what is helping us in tribe here? We don't know sound like that. If not, you won't touch this thing. This thing was an Industrial Revolution product. We need a 21st century reality. Okay, so 26. Now they've come back from spying the land. Again, witness the conversation that is going there. So Moses and Aaron, the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, they reported to the whole community what they had seen and showed them the fruits they had taken from the land. Now Moses made a blunder at this time. The blunder of this thing that Moses made was that, you send 12 people to go and investigate. You must have a briefing first. The briefing was that you carry them to a corner and say, guys, tell us. So in the briefing, Moses would have just said, okay, nobody will speak. Joshua and Caleb should speak. But, apparently Moses didn't get that perception. He opened up the floor and the 12 people showed up and they were now talking. So this was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore. And it is indeed a bountiful country, or a land flowing with milk and honey. Now here is the kind of fruit it produces. They go on. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there. The descendants of Anak, the Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. Next. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. He said, let's go at once to take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. So the tension continues, but the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go up against them, they said. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants like the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. And that's what they thought too. Now let's dwell on this for a second. They said, to their eyes, we felt like grasshoppers. I don't know any description of imposter syndrome other than what these guys were dealing with. Whatever they had been through in Egypt has stripped them of any sense of dignity, of any sense of identity. They showed up, they were carcass, empty, whitewashed sepulchres, nothing but shadows, tapestries, empty shells. There was nothing left in them. And so the truth was that they did not know who they are or who they were. They settled for an identity crisis and projected it on everything else. Now, let's go to the next script. See what they did to the community. And I think every day you wake up and you complain about something in Nigeria, you must keep in mind what you're speaking into. Are you speaking the crisis of Egypt, or you're speaking the promised land? Because the perception is that ultimately what you define becomes your experience. If you embrace the brokenness of Nigeria, you leave it out. We can leave Canada in Lagos. And I can tell you for a fact, because Canada is not a place, it's an experience. And it is your internal reality that projects your internal world. So if you are carrying yourself about, feeling depressed, dejected, you're going to strip yourself of the capacity to create. And we're going to talk about that. But see what they did to the whole city. The whole country was screaming like on social media. All those trolls, Buhari have killed us. And the whole voice rose in a great chorus of protest against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in Egypt, or even we were here in the wilderness, they complained. They were unwilling to go forward. They were willing to die in the wilderness. In fact, they felt that the known was better. That the known in Egypt was better than the unknown future they were going to. Some of you are still stuck in the known. You're sticking to a known that no longer serves you. You're sticking to an experience, an addiction that no longer serves you. But this is all you know. This is the way you will know how to be. So how can somebody tell you there is more? Right? So you rather die in Egypt or die in the promised land. A generation of freedmen died in the wilderness. God wasted a freedom on them. These men didn't know what to do with freedom. Because you can be freed from a place but never free in your mind. Ultimately, the freedom of your mind will impact on the actions that you do. So not all who walk are free. Like we know, not all who roam are sane. And not mad people roam. It's sweet. So my point is that it's the same thing. I want you to reflect as we talk about this morning. What are the limitations in your heart? Are they the ones you've imposed from your experience? Are you now buying into the fact that there are things you are not possible, you cannot do, you cannot succeed? And you live in this false layer of comparison because somehow along the line, your impostor plays you like a grasshopper, plays everything else like a giant. If only you know who you truly are, your self-worth, you will not buy the lies. But if you indeed say you're a grasshopper, you are. If you agree that you're the giant, you are. Because ultimately, what is true is only subjective. It's not objective. The subjective reality is more superior. So what I mean by that, if God has called you free, and in your life you don't believe you're free, that your belief will produce lack of freedom. But think about it. God had a pitch. In John 10:10, God was clear what he wanted. You know what the pitch was? I've come to give you life, and life abundantly. So what God had in mind was not to carry a generation and put them back in chains. See, God's call for you is to live out the fullness of who you are in him. God is not calling you to put you back in chains. If your experience is not one of freedom, you're failing. Some of you are living 30 years experience 30 times. One experience 30 times. So your 30 years on earth is one experience repeated 30 times. Every year is the same kind of experience, the same food, the same stuff. You're not taking on big projects. You're not believing bigger things. You're not thinking global. You're not seeing beyond yourself. You're not thinking I can make things that can go around the world. My name can be seen around the world. God is not intimidated by your success. He's a participant in it. Let me tell you the facts. All those people that will tell you it's not about you, it is as much about you as it's not about you. It is about you because when God called Moses to dream, God did not tell, God was not intimidated by Moses. He said, Moses, that's your rod, you go. God told him, Moses, I'll make you like a god to them, that your words would terrify them. When God showed up to talk to Noah, God did not tell Noah, call it God's ark. It was Noah's ark. God was not intimidated by his brand. God was displayed even in the brand called Noah. When God met, no, trust me on that. You have to keep that in mind. When God actually even met Abraham, God pitched to him, let's make a nation, great nation. And God was not, he said, I will make you a father of many nations. He didn't say, I, the Lord, will be the father of many nations. He said, no, Abraham, put your name on it. In fact, Abraham is too short. Let's throw a ham on it. And he got full and said, let's go ham on it, Abraham, a father of many nations. God was not intimidated. When God told David, the city of David, God didn't say, David, show up. Did you call it city of David? I'm here. You're calling your city of David. Are we mates? Is it about you now, David? No. God is even glorified in your success. So the question is, will you let God make you the great person he destined you to be? Will you contribute and participate with God in what he's trying to do in your life? Like we talk about here that God is the source of the dream in your heart, calling you to do great things. Please get rid of the limits because they are not imposed by God. They are imposed by culture. Nigeria has a limit in itself. This inferiority complex, we don't buy a bar. How many of you wear a bar now? You understand? Because we have a national self-esteem issue that makes us think of ourselves less. If you're not supported by a white man, you've not succeeded. If a white man gives you an award that is so politicized, structured to keep you in imperialism, you don't even know you're buying into that lie. We are being neo-capitalism has come back. Neo-imperialism has come back. And we carry on thinking that we are smart. Meanwhile, we're selling everything we are. We're selling our soul. We're selling our lives to the whites and to everything around us. Somehow because they are capitalizing on the fact that the black man needs aid to survive. Aid was designed to keep in poverty. It was designed to keep in penury. And some people have structured an entire business model around an NGO of seeking aid every year. God help you from that. NGO was meant to have a timeline. You were meant to solve a problem for a season and end it. If your NGO has gone on for 20 years, my sister, you're doing overtime. Because the point was that you were not meant to normalize crime. You were not meant to normalize all those things. You were meant to fix it and move on. So you're fixing a problem for 30 years. You bought a Jeep, you bought a house. It's time to open it up. So the point again is you can't define yourself by all of these things. But again, we are seeing it in Israel. They could never build anything. They could not even trust. They were battling this. Why is the Lord taking us to the country only to have us die in battle? Our wives and our little ones to be carried off as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? They were looking back. They are looking back. I had a better yesterday. I had a better secondary school. I had a better university experience. Brother, sister, in God, there can never be a better yesterday. You are always God is always taking you to a better future, a better future. So you cannot settle for a glorious past. There is nothing called a glorious past in God. There is called a glorious future. So we better switch that narrative for what it is. Don't settle for the lies that your past is better than what. No. God has set the path before you. Your path is like a shining light. It will shine brighter and brighter on a perfect end. Embrace who you are in God. There is never a better yesterday in a believer. Your life in God is actually about glory. God wants to share his glory with you. He wants to make you the glory of the world. Let's go to 14 verse, I think 23 or 13. Now, when you go further down, why did, I think it was 23, Caleb and Joshua, what played out here? They spoke about a different spirit. Mark, look for it. I think one of either 13 or 23. Now, when they got back, everybody was screaming, we're dead. We can't take the land. Caleb and Joshua were different. Caleb and Joshua did not buy into that lie. But Moses, what will the Egyptian think when they hear about it? He asked the Lord. They know full well the power you displayed in rescuing your people from Egypt. Now, if you destroy them, the Egyptians will send, look for it. There is a part where it said they are of a different spirit. 24. But my servant Caleb has a different attitude than the others. have. He has remained loyal to me, so I will bring him into the land he explored. His descendant will possess it. Now, this is what everything you read in the Old Testament is playing out in human consciousness every day we live. These real characters are your typology, they're your thoughts, they're your patterns. In the entire study of metaphysics is about how the implication of the Bible is about human consciousness. So there is a Caleb in you, and there's an Egyptian in you. Or there is a slave in you, and there's an Egyptian in you. So I'm going to give you 3 pictures now. Chike, come. Okay, come, please. Kamsi, please. Now, we wrap up in a bit. But this is what I need you not to forget. Whenever you begin your journey in God, there are 3 things you see. Okay. No, there is no way we can arrange it. But we'll just sort of take it off from there. So they started their journey out as slaves. Now, this is, let's say this is where you're coming from. You're coming from Egypt. You're here. Now, is there a difference between a servant and a slave? Is there a difference? There is. Yes. Yeah, there is. There is. So they started, now, the thing about it is that a free man can work as a servant. And a slave can work as, but a free man and a slave, they work for living. It's what they earn. But while the free man might have a choice to quit, the slave may not have a choice to quit. But there is a part where the identity is that you were a slave of Pharaoh, you were born in slavery. Now, this is where a lot of us started from. Our experience of cultural captivity means that you're coming from a broken place in Pharaoh. This is our life on earth before we met Christ. This is who we were. This is how we thought. So in Egypt, you are what you do. In Egypt, you are the people's opinion of you matter. In Egypt, you are governed by the laws of Pharaoh. In Egypt, your self-esteem is compromised because somewhere along the line, you can't own anything you want to own. In Egypt, the laws of the land is actually your limitation. Now you move from here, you come into wilderness era. In this place, you're a servant. Now there's an upgrade. You're free from your oppressor, but your oppressor has not, your mental oppressor has not freed you. So in this place, you're a slave, but in this place, you're a servant. So many of us have this experience. So in a slave and a servant has flashes of freedom, but doesn't know the concept of it. He can't handle freedom. So every time he has a choice to upgrade here, or he has a choice to return here. So this is the journey of many of us. So when you get to your servant season or you go to your slave season is where you think that your relationship with God is a side chick experience. In this one, God is not your father. You don't know him as a father. So you need to earn it. So our parents don't, the people who play God for healing, brother, you are healed. No, I need to give a fat seed. Yes, your seed cannot make healing possible because healing is independent of your seed. God has healed you. Understand he's your father, but it's good to sow. But don't earn it. You receive it. Your identity is bestowed. It's not achieved. In this place, God is not in love with you because of your potential. God loves you regardless of it. We don't want you to waste your potential. But should you not choose to do anything, you're not loved less. But then don't choose. So, in this particular place, you come to this point. Now, this is where we're coming to. So, Marco, give us Romans 8. Romans 8, when we cry, Abba, Father. Romans 8, when we're talking about adoption, I think 14-ish. Yeah, no, 14-ish. Right, okay. So, servant, slave servant, son. Now, what is different in this whole reality is playing out even in Christianity of 21st century. Just the way they could not handle freedom, just the way they didn't know that they were free, God was giving them a promise, a land. They couldn't take the land. They wanted to go back to the traumas of the past. They felt that, no, Pharaoh will give you meal, and they were okay with that. But they were not able to deal with the workings of God even in their hearts. Now, when a son comes along, this is what he's saying. So if you have received the spirit that makes you a fearful slave, so you have not received the spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Let's track that for a second. In one of the translations, it said, those that are led by the Spirit are children of God. I think that's Romans 8, verse 14. Those that are led by the Spirit are the children of God. You have received God in the person of the Holy Spirit. It wasn't just that you received God in the person of the Holy Spirit. God came alive in you. And the same deposit that he is in himself, he deposited in you. So that what God looks at you, he sees Christ beaming through your lens. That this is one with me. The accurate identity of man is not somebody that was made independent of God. The accurate identity of man are sons of God. Let me tell you what son is. I'll give you a paternity test right now. Paternity test is something that, long before ever there was paternity test, someone solved something, but today let's solve the one that we know. When God spoke to himself, let us make man in our image, God became the source of your creation. He wasn't just creating you with anything. He was creating you with himself. So you are created from the essence that God is. So what that means is that if God is divine, you are divine. Because divinity cannot give birth to indivinity. I know you had that word before. Word on divinity. I won't say, but get the gist. Divinity cannot give birth to undivinity. So divinity gives birth to divinity. That was why when Christ came, Christ said, though he was formed, he was in the image of God. When he became, our Nigerian churches and the world, we've been talking about a savior and that the Son of God that came. Jesus was not talking about, the message of Jesus was not about the Son of God that came. Get the drift. Jesus came to reveal a generation of saviors. Jesus came to set in motion what I call God's sons in human forms. So the revival is that we need to discover our sonship, that we must operate in this platform of who we are in God. So people are preaching the message of Jesus. They are preaching about Jesus, not the message of Jesus. Jesus, yes, was a son, but his sonship was an invitation for you to discover what is possible in you and what has always been hidden for you, that you are a son of God. They call it the mystery of the ages. My son Kaima, he's my son. His bloodline and my bloodline are the same. You understand? If it's possible in your father, it's possible in you. Epigenesis has come to tell us a couple of things here, but the reality is that, epigenesis is saying you're no longer your genetics. We are called to preach Christ in you, the hope of glory, because Christ in you is the message of our day. The entire creation knows this, but man. So the Bible says as we are walking, the earth is screaming, sons, we are waiting for you. Yet sons are in disguise, moving around like slaves. When they were talking about servant on horses, it was that you've empowered the slave part of you over the son part of you. So the servant on horses, the slave and the son is in you contending like Jacob and Esau. So when God said, Jacob I have hated, Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated, God was not telling you to hate your fellow man. God was talking about a nature that was inside you that was taking over. And he said, no, Jacob was a child of promise. He carried the seed of the sonship. So he wasn't excluding people. He was teaching you how to escape and don't become equally yoked with the slave part of you. When he was saying don't become unequally yoked with the unbeliever, he was don't become unequally yoked with the unbelieving part of you. God wasn't telling you to keep others out because God doesn't keep others out. So don't make it about others. It is your invitation to don't become your unbelief. Don't become your trauma. He got to this point where he was a servant in Potiphar's house. He could pull a few strings and get a party done. He could easily have fallen for Potiphar's wife at this point. Because this arrival, but this is not the journey. There was a palace waiting for you. Don't get tripped over by the small experiences you've seen in God. There is more. Our spiritual experience is not to repeat 1 year experience, 25. See, if you know that you're a prophet, the prophetic, the fivefold ministry is possible to every man. It is not limited, but your consciousness today, guys, as we conclude, take this from me. You are divinity in disguise. You are the Son of God, and the Son of God is your most intimate, most accurate, most authentic identity. It is the truest self you possibly can be. Every other notion is false. And what did Jesus do? Jesus came to walk with abundance. We have carried slave mentality to interpret salvation. Do you know we've done that? When God said, I am abundance, God was not speaking of abundance only when you need money. Think about it. He said, the scope of salvation expands to reclaim your identity, your purpose, your beauty, your self-esteem, your divinity. You think that you've been restored in your humanity, but have you unlocked your divinity? When Adam fell, Adam did not lose his divinity. He didn't. He only lost it at the level of consciousness, but it was always a possibility in him. See, if you know who you are, the potentials and the possibilities God has locked up inside of you, Lagos will change. God is waiting to set you ablaze in the world. Religion wants to keep you in chain and make you feel inferior. God is saying, no, everything that is possible in Christ is possible in you. Give yourself the permission to fly. You cannot settle for the lies. This culture, the religion our parents practice and many of us are battling with is not going to save you. God is not in it. No matter how intimate you bond, God is not in a temple. You are the temple. And somebody was telling me the other day and said, Jesus flogged people from temple. Why are we saying that God doesn't go to temple? I said, no, he was speaking of a metaphor temple because you are meant to flog anything from your temple that is not of God's kind. All the lies that come to dilute, you say they don't belong here. Clean it out. If you can be more aggressive in taking captive every negative thought that demeans you. Right? God does not come to make less of you. He has come to unleash you. God does not profit from your inferiority complex. He cures it. So when you begin to coexist in lies and think that this is who God is, you fail to understand that this is the opposite of what he came to do. He hasn't come to comfort you in your pain. He's come to heal it. He hasn't called to tell you that it's okay to not be okay. He can tell the Sapios, he can tell the Nepios, he can tell the young ones, but when you come into son, he said, no, son, you have the capacity to create healing. So can you open your mouth and call it? Because my words in my mouth is as powerful as my words in your mouth. Unleash your divinity this morning. In 2021, God has sent you here for such a time as this. God doesn't make mistakes. He knows this is what you need to heal you and set you free. Your destiny changes in what He's about to write you into. God is writing you, He's revealing the things to you. In 2021, you will discover your divinity and function from your sonship. Please never waste a word because you're creating with every lame word you speak. Your subconscious is so powerful that it doesn't know good or bad. Once you say, my head, they pay me, you don't carry around. So please don't lend your divinity to anything that is not going to add up to you. Can you begin to operate from power, not the learned powerlessness that we were told? We learned powerlessness. You are a reservoir of power. You are a dynamite. It says that when we pray in tongues, we make tremendous power available. It's a tremendous power, and we're going to do that a lot. So 2021, we'll tear it down because sometimes you want to logicalize what prayer will fix. Sometimes the prayer does for us is open dimensions in us that we don't even know we have. And God comes to introduce you to yourself in Christ. Please clap for them. Guys, we close, right? So let me just wrap up. So you have not received the spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, you receive God's spirit when He adopted you as His own children. Now we call Him Abba Father. Now the adoption that we know now is not adoption of the Jewish culture. This was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. The context of adoption in their age is not what we know. Now, adoption is going to carry somebody speaking and call him your own. No. Adoption in the context of the Jewish culture is what Jacob did to Joseph. God picks up a favorite child and puts a coat of many colors upon him. God puts a signet ring on his finger. So adoption was not something that was just used for people outside of culture. It was whether it was your child or not your child. In fact, your child. So they knew that when Jacob anointed Joseph, they knew suddenly that Joseph was a child of promise. That this was the one that God has loved. And they became threatened by it. But what God was showing us through that story was that we are always going to be Josephs in Jacob's house. We are not Reuben. All of us now Joseph join. So don't think that one person's success is you are out. No, we are all the chosen of the Lord. We are all the bride of Christ. We are all beloved and accepted in Him. We are all one with God. There is no Esau, you are Jacob. There is no Reuben, there is no Simeon. No, you are Joseph. In every story, you are the very one that God loves the most. So the Old Testament is not to be taken on a literal level. It was speaking of what will become of you. Find yourself in Jacob when it's time to compare yourself with Esau. Find yourself in Joseph when it's time to compare yourself with the other 11. You are the chosen of the Lord, the choice one. Discover the love that has claimed you, not the love you need to give God. God does not need your love. He knows that once you discover the love He has for you, everything else changes. It will be a natural consequence for you to love Him. Trying to love God without first getting a revelation of His love is you trying to start a car without a key. If you don't have the key, you can't fly. And some of us, stop trekking inside airplane. You've entered Christ. Rest. Stop trying to use behavioral mechanism to make yourself better than you should be. He fixes you. You don't fix yourself. You don't maintain your salvation. Your salvation maintains you. You're not maintained by anything but Christ. You're not keeping yourself. He's doing the keeping. He's doing the keeping. You're held. You're not holding. You're not holding. You can lose what you're holding. So those people that say their salvation can be lost, when you're tired of holding Him, give up. He will hold you. So we close. Matthew 5. Are we doing good with time? Guys, the Lord has been good to me these days. We have a way of journeying. So let's look at Matthew 5. I want to just quickly throw in the Beatitudes as we close. This is the closing now. There is a closing that closes. So Matthew 5. Matthew 5. I think let's take it from Papa Zode. It's like Zode is looking for you. All right, no. It's all right, please. Let's look at 3. Okay, I'll read it from verse 1. It says, I'm reading from the Message translation because I find it so poetic. Like I said, then those of you that have favorite translation and you start bashing on any other translation, please, can you be wise? No one was written in English. You understand? I enjoy them for what they are. You understand? I know that I have more poetic instinct, so I might play to TPT, but I enjoy King James too. I just know that some of the things that they translated, the language could not carry it. So we have to read it again, money translation. Because when you read vine, King James was saying God will prune you, that he will cut you off. No. In that scripture, when he said you are the vine, God is not pulling you away. He's making you more productive. It was actually about weaving you, crafting you back in. You can't lose union. Now let's see this. When Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, Jesus don't blow. That year. So this was a landmark message. Because you give your best hit when your fans are many. Because you don't want to lose your base. So okay, let's not just trivialize it. But the point again is that he climbed the hillside. Those who were apprentices to him, they committed, they climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down. Now see what he starts teaching them. He says, and tonight, and taught his climbing companions. This is what he said. Next. Guys, I don't know who has this word this week, but God really wanted me to share. It said, you are blessed when you are at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. But the rule of God is not a principle. It's the rule of his love that you belong. The rule is not talking about, is what Jesus said, yoke, is union. That once you enter Christ, you know what is causing us pain in our generation? We have union with many things. We are flirting a lot with our union experience. The way God designed us, we are union magnets. So as a union magnet, you will always attract something. So we are designed, but the way God did it so that we could find our reference only in him. But as a union magnet, once you turn away from God, you magnet keyboard. You turn a magnet board. Like you're just pulling everything, Tom, Dick, Harry, right? So we are now drawing all kinds of attachments. The pain that we think is because what we call pain, right? God does not inflict you pain, but you suffer pain. But God does not inflict pain. Let me tell you what pain is. This is what pain is. Every time you become attached to something that is not capable of defining you, life will pull that thing away from you and you will bleed. And that bleeding, you call it pain. Some people now project it on God, that God is punishing them. No, this is your deliverance playing out. It wasn't God that gave you that. Life was designed to take it away from you. Your only valid union is one with God. If you're one with anything else, you play into sin. It will cause disease in your heart. So let me talk about if you go into a relationship, it's a good thing. But suddenly you get into a relationship because you have low self-esteem and insecurity. You put upon the person the burden to become your security. No man can secure you. In fact, most of them need security from God. So when you put that burden on them, they get frazzled. And when they run, you realize that there is a brokenness and a pain. It was because they were never meant to be your security. So in that moment, you can reflect over your emotions as God inflicting pain on you, or you can see for what it was, that God is healing you from attachment to wrong things. Every crisis is a pulling away from things that were never meant to feed us. Every pain is a recovery from anything that has claimed you. So God doesn't give pain. In a non-dual world, non-duality means that God is not good and bad. He's a good father. So he does not love you today then flog you tomorrow. So the chastisement of the Lord is him watching and standing by as those things that have claimed you are stripped off you. So God doesn't chastise to destroy. He chastises to redeem. God doesn't judge to condemn. He judges to redeem. God doesn't judge to punish. He judges to claim. You cannot be punished by God. You're punished by the things that claim to replace him. Healing is available to us today. That you have to reclaim this. You are blessed when you are, this is the Jesus' sermon. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. When you detach yourself, we call it non-attachment. This breaking away of anything that has held you. Jesus said what? You are blessed. You're blessed because only then can you realize you have union. Read it again, from union lens. When you lose the things that define you badly, wrongly, inaccurately, you discover that you didn't need them in the first place. You were meant to be one with God. It says, only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. So your consciousness begins to realize that you're loved because you've lost what was supposed to have been giving you that false sense of love that was never carrying the weight and the authenticity. Next, we close. You're blessed when you are content with just who you are, No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can be bought. Like we can die here. No, sorry, we can live here. We live here. So the point in this is, think about it. You're blessed when you are content with just who you are. Jesus doesn't come, nothing can complete you. See, culture is not your friend. Terence McKen said that. Culture is not your friend. Culture lies. When you look at billboard, they give you one fine chick. Her skin is like butter. You understand? They package it for you. In that moment, you feel like, oh, see my skin, so parched. So they sell you an ideal. They create an inadequacy in you, sell you the solution. That's what capitalism is about. Capitalism is designed to make you feel lack, incomplete, so you can pay. So they bring a car and say, this is what completes you now. And they give a cool guide just to say, this is my ride. We move in the places. And they say, man, this is where boys are going. So you are not in that car, you are left out. So culture carries all these things and then is that dangling them in front of you like carrots, like you're looking at it. So when you don't know that you're complete in God, you're not inadequate, you're complete, you're secured, nothing can add to you, you already are. Nothing you lose today can reduce you, you already are. Nothing you gain today can add to you, you already are. Do you know you are one with Him? Do you know you are loved by Him? Do you know you are complete in Him? So we go around seeking completion in our career. Even if you direct the best film in the world, or you produce the best music in the world, or you drop the best hits, it won't complete you any more than you already are. And you begin to discover freedom when you surrender your ideas to God and say, I let go of my attachment to my hit. I let go of my attachment to that I want to make it. And then you realize that you already made it. And it is the consciousness that already made it that produces making it. Because you already are before you become. So nothing you are that was not you. My point is, success is already in you. You will manifest it. Don't get intimidated by people around you who may have gone ahead. Your time comes and God perfects it. Once you realize your sonship, you control time. So you are blessed when you are walked up a good appetite for God. His good food and drink is the best meal you ever eat. So the food of God is union life. The food of God is your acceptance and your love. The food of culture is that you need more, you need less, you need to do. No. Let's pray. I don't know if today we can take questions. Maybe we'll do that next week. But I just want us to reflect over the fact that I don't know what has taken, stolen, damaged your identity and filled you with all kinds of lies that there is something you need to do to complete you. You're complete in your Father. You are loved and accepted in your Father. Can we rise as we pray? You're my Father. 'Cause you never leave nor forsake us. No matter what may come my way, you are. You're my Father. You'll never leave. You never leave nor forsake. No matter what may come my way, you are above. You're my. You never leave, you never leave. No matter what may come my way, you're my Father, you're my Father. There's no place I can run, there's no place I can hide, there's no place I can go. You will find me. Please, Simi, come and help my ministry. Before I enter KZ now, I can. Please, you will find me. Now, what that song is saying, most of us, God found us in the rabbit hole. We were digging deeper, and He was digging to catch up with us. God doesn't leave us in our pit, He comes to the pit. So let's sing it together. Church, you never forsake us. No matter what may come our way, you are for. I want to pray for someone here. You feel strongly that you know something broke something in you. And for a long time, you can't dream. You've lost the capacity to dream. What was a joy has become a nightmare. You used to be somebody that was passionate about life, but you've been boxed into a corner. We'll pray with you. So please, if you're here, just come out. Let's strengthen the anointing of the presence of God here. To say, discover that you're whole, discover you're free. There is no chain that can last. Please come out.
You never leave nor forsake me. No matter what may come my way, you are Father. 'Cause you're my Father.
You never leave.
And you never leave nor forsake me. No matter what may come my way, you are Father. Oh, my Father. You never leave nor forsake. No matter what may come my way. You're my Father. You never leave now. No matter what may come. You're my Father. Don't let go.
Lord, your love.
Won't let me go. Won't let go.
Your love won't let us go.